Have you ever felt threatened by an 8-year-old? My first year of teaching, I had a third grader pick his chair up over his head and say, "Get the fuck away from me, Mr. Richards!" It was terrifying. I hadn't been trained for that. I came into teaching later in life after working a ton of jobs: line cook, deckhand, mechanic, river guide. I was working as a garbage truck driver in Lacey when I decided I needed a career change. My wife was an elementary school teacher, and I'd worked with kids in previous experiences. I thought, I'll go into teaching. Like, how hard can that be, So I signed up for the New York City Teaching Fellows. This is an AmeriCorps program that recruits people from all over the country who are willing to relocate to New York City and work for 2 years in an inner city school while they earn their master's degree and teaching certificate. So in the spring, I quit my job. In the summer, I did 6 weeks of training, including 1 whole week of student teaching. And in the fall, I stepped into my 3rd grade classroom in the Bronx. It was a beautiful little K-5 school in a great little neighborhood. There was a little park at the end of the street. But it turns out that our students weren't allowed to ever go into the park because of the needles and drug dealers there. So after school, they were just supposed to go straight home and hang out in their apartment houses, probably unsupervised, right? Because mom and dad are working 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet. They definitely weren't allowed outside at night, so they stayed all night in their apartment houses, and then the next day they would get up and get themselves off to school, where they would stay inside all day because our playground was condemned, so we had no recess, and nobody thought to put a gym on the building, so we had no PE class. So the only outlet our students ever had was playing board games after lunch. Unless, of course, they got unruly, in which case the monitors would turn the lights off and make them put their heads down on the tables. It's no wonder I had students like Hector trying to throw chairs at me. I had Quincy, who never had a nice word for me until one day he said, "Hey, Mr. Richards, you want some sugar honey iced tea? I'm happy to give you some sugar honey iced tea." I thought, wow, I like sweet tea. Quincy's being nice to me. This is great. Until I figured out that sugar honey iced tea is just a bad acrostic poem. And actually, Quincy was giving me sugar honey iced tea all day, every time I saw him. I had kids like Billy, who walked right up to me and said, "I'm tired of you, Mr. Richards. I'm going to take you out back with a belt." So one of the first things I did was I sat down with my wife and I developed a behavior management system. I gave it to my supervisor, Mrs. Torres, and I implemented it in my classroom, and inside of 2 weeks, it was dust on the floor, man. And Mrs. Torres, in all her wisdom, said, "Well, I never thought it would work, Mr. Richards." We had this 4th grader who was chasing kids around with scissors. The consequences for him was to spend a day in my 3rd grade classroom, which went to hell in a handbasket in about 20 minutes. I sent a student to find Miss Torres. She was eating lunch, and she was upset with me because, I interrupted her lunch. I had a indoor recess one day in my classroom. We had dolls and toys and music. We had a hangman going on the overhead projector, and then it was a beautiful scene, idyllic. And then my principal walked in. "Bam! What's going on in here? Are those toys? Get those put away. You should be doing math right now. Get back to your seats right now." Wow. I had picked up my wife and 1-year-old child and moved 4,000 miles across the country to be a teacher. And it turns out it's really freaking hard. And not only that, but I suck at it. My students want to kill me. The administration is working against me. Like, what was I thinking? I cried every night. I'd go home and just be like, "Oh my God, what have I done? This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever tried in my life." One day, I'm hanging out in my classroom, and I'm just thinking, "Oh Lord, I hope I can get through this day." And Hector walks up to me. I'm thinking, "Oh man, Hector, what do you want now, man?" He says, "What's wrong, Mr. Richards? Is somebody messing with you? Because if they're going to mess with you, they're going to have to get through me first." And I cried. Those were exactly the words I needed to hear. Hector made it clear that I was making a difference. So even when things get hard, I remember the words of the boy who wanted to throw a chair at me.